Here's an interview from one of our past shows on Rock and Metal Revival. If you're interested in hearing full shows, go to our Facebook page and check out our list of affiliates for times and places where you can hear Rock and Metal Revival. That's brand new music from the album Sleeping Giants. It's called Vultures on Rock and Metal Revival. And dude, digging it. Album is amazing.
Yeah, it's got some great stuff on it. Great musicians on it, too.
Unbelievable. Wow. And we've got one of them with us, a friend of Rock and Metal Revival. We want to welcome back Megadeth bassist Dave Ellefson to the show. Welcome back to the show, Dave.
Hey, guys. Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Dave, it's like I've always said in the past, you've got to be the busiest man I know in show business. I mean, you've got the Megadeth gig, you've got the Sleeping Giants gig. You're an author, a coffee maker, your speaker. What is
record company. Yeah.
What does Dave Ellefson not do?
Managing bands.
Besides sleep.
Trying to fill in the blanks. That's all.
Really.
Well, it's funny. It's the new book, More Life With Deth. I just read the audio for it to put the audio book up online, which we'll probably get a pre-sale up here in early July for that. It's interesting reading your own story of your own words that you wrote by your own hand, but actually verbalizing it and saying it out loud. And what I realized, I was going, good Lord, this is like turning into like a heavy metal Tony Robbins book here, where I'm like talking about, kind of life lessons. And one of the life lessons that seemed to be a thread throughout was just say yes, and a lot of that came from a season when Megadeth was sidelined back in 2002, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what my next move was. I didn't know where I was going to land, what was going to happen, and a couple things came my way, and I balked. Didn't even say no, I just balked. And in balking, the train left the station, and the opportunity passed me by. And then I went, and I had such regret about it. And I learned, you know what? The answer from here on out is yes. Hey, you want to do this? Sure. Yeah, no problem. You want to talk to Greg and Jerry? Sure. I'm in. Let's go. So all of it is that. So I think that's what you're seeing, of just my life right now is just say yes to life and let's go.
Dave, I read the first book and I'm just starting the second book. I know Jerry's been reading it.
I can't put it down.
How do you pick what you're going to tell? I mean, there's certain things you're not going to tell. But how do you go through and pick the stories that you want to relate to people?
Well, this book was interesting because I've already written two books. I wrote one other memoir that came out in 2013 called My Life with Deth, hence the title of this one, More Life with Deth. Mm-hmm. And then back in 1997, I published a book called Making Music Your Business, a guide for young musicians, which is sort of more of a kind of musician how-to book. And through that process, I'd learned sort of how these books come together. And on this one, to be honest with you guys, we were doing a Midwest coffee tour through like Sioux Falls, Mankato, Minneapolis, doing some appearances. And that was back in March of 2018. and I had stopped at my house where I grew up, where my nephew now lives in Jackson, Minnesota, the farm I grew up on. And he pulled out of the filing cabinet the Ellefson family history from the 1600s to 1979 that a great uncle of mine had written. And I just went, you know what? There's the start of the book, the Ellefson family history. And of course, I wasn't going to go back to the 1600s entirely, but we are going to put that out as a PDF in an online purchase format that'll be basically kind of a bonus to the book, because I think it's pretty cool, especially with metal. A lot of it kind of tethers back to Europe and Norway and all this stuff. So I thought it would be kind of cool to have that out there now for the public to see. But as I started writing it, I literally wrote this book probably in a week. The chapters just fell out of me, And then as you get the body of work, you kind of start to find the story. And then once you have the story, you kind of start to find your voice in that. It's very similar to writing a song. You write a riff, and then you write another one. Oh, I got a verse, and I got a chorus. Oh, let me sing a melody. Oh, great, I got that. And I put some words. And it sort of creates itself. And I think, with the stories, I put down on paper everything. And then as I edit, I go back and I start editing and I go, I probably shouldn't tell that story. That might get in so many trouble. So I start to pull a couple things back. But then there's other things that I go, this needs to be told, because this really is a kind of a linchpin that sort of pulls these two pieces of my life together, and maybe it's a person, maybe it's an event, something that transpired that really tells a story. I do my own sort of personal psychology work, if you will, away from the public eye, so I don't have to, these books don't have to sort of be my tell-all to sort of sponge out of all my demons and, my getting even with people through my books. I'm not that author at all. That to me is stuff that should be taken care of in private time, so that when you tell the story, it can be truthful, but not harmful. Because I'm not a guy who wants to have to go back around and, make apology letters because of something I put in a book. So to me, my benchmark is I have the right to tell my story, but I don't have the right to tell your story.
Yeah. Nice. I like how you have the people that you're talking about that are involved in each section, and they put in their own little version of what happened and their side of it, which is really cool. Were you surprised by any of the stuff that they said? They brought back memories that you missed out and you forgot?
I'm glad you like that, because you know what? That to me helps tell the bigger part of the story. And it really starts to fill in, I remember when we were kids and we'd have coloring books, right? And, these auto paint by numbers kind of stuff. Yeah. It's the other little subtle colors that really fill the story out, And of course I remember what happened through my eyes when I was there, But like, for instance, my childhood friends, Greg Handevitt and Brad Schmidt, who talk about when we moved to L.A., when we moved into the apartment in Hollywood, and our upstairs neighbor was Dave Mustaine, who was 6 weeks out of Metallica and was, planning his next move. We happened to be there. Me and Greg joined the band. It's Greg's idea to call the band Megadeth. And, 6 weeks later, Greg's out, and it's me and Dave. We are now Megadeth, and to just hear the, to read how Greg tells the story, because Greg's a really good storyteller, and he's still a dear friend of mine, and he's a lot like Dave, and so that was one that I thought was really cool. And then I've got some other, like a childhood hero of mine, K.K. Downing from Judas Priest.
Oh yeah,
and we became friends on the Painkiller Rust in Peace tour back in 1990-91. We had reconnected here in recent years, and of course I just read his new autobiography, which is terrific.
Yeah.
And I'm a friend of his. I'm also certainly a fan of his work. So for him to give me his view on Megadeth and just our friendship, was just incredible, man. That was a real prize moment for me. Glowing
accolades from him. That was pretty awesome, man. That would definitely give you goosebumps. Now, I gotta mention, we got the digital version, so I'm looking at it on my iPad, and I blew up your set list from your cover band, the Killers.
Right.
Yeah, dude, right. I could audition for your band, dude. We played all except the 38 special crap, the top 40 crap that you guys threw in there. Just
Eddie Money. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah,
well, I love how Greg Handevitt tells the story in his narration. He says, yeah, we would send that set list out so we'd get hired. Yeah. And then when we showed up, we'd say, yeah, we took that out. Now we play Motorhead Love Me Like a Reptile.
Yeah. That's so funny, man.
Like true metalheads would. Very Wayne and Garth moment.
Yeah, too funny.
Now, Dave, you've got this new CD, The Sleeping Giants, and there's some pretty heavy hitters on this album with you. And tell people about this project that you put out.
Sure. So we were doing a bass story tour, which was my storyteller kind of solo bass events that I do. And it was back in, I think, December. We were in Tampa. And my partner, Tom, who wrote the book with me and also manages me and a lot of our Ellefson Industries, if you will, he goes, man, let's go in the studio and write a song tonight. And so like at 11 o'clock or midnight, we went in. And literally that song just fell off the guitar neck. I picked up a guitar, I wrote the music to this song, Vultures. Tom put some lyrics on it, and literally within a day we had a song. And I said, I got a couple other tunes I think I'd love to have you, Tom, put some lyrics to, which he did, which were Sleeping Giants and Hammer. Mm-hmm. And that's when the idea came, you know what, I've got all these other songs that are literally giant songs, but they're just kind of sleeping in the vault because they haven't found a home yet. And some of them, are from my group F5 that I had back in the 2000s.
Yeah.
When that band first formed, we went through this really explosive couple of months of writing, and the demos were so cool. There's a rawness about demos, not just from production, but just a heartfelt authenticity about demos in any setting I've been in, that there's something there that's magic, you know, that you, and oftentimes, quite honestly, you don't ever really replicate it again when you record the final master. So I put those on there, and then I realized I had these other songs that I had written back in 1993 when Megadeth was on a break on the Countdown to Extinction tour, and I included some of those, some with David Glenn Isley singing, who was the singer in House of Lords, and also my friend John Bush, who was in Anthrax and of course Armored Saint. Nice. So I wanted to put those on there because I go, these are just really cool tunes. And, you know, for me to pull songs out that I hadn't heard in a decade or two and to have them still get me excited, I just went, you know what, that's a good song. And nice. These songs now deserve to see the light of day and have their moment. So that's why we created this whole album. And a lot of the people in it, F5 and stuff, a lot of the people that are on this record are talked about in the book. So it became this perfect companion as sort of a soundtrack for the story that you read in the book.
Outstanding. Now, we just found out today that you're going to be in our neighborhood in Rockford doing your bass story, More Life With Deth. Explain to people what that's about, because I know Jerry and I are going.
Oh, yeah.
We've already decided we're going to be there.
Good. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, bass story started out, you know, used to do a lot of clinics, you know, in the music stores, and that has pretty much dried up. Because those were usually sponsored by, you know, your guitar company, amp company, stuff like that. So Tom and I decided to basically take a clinic, move it into a nightclub. Now people can buy drinks and buy merch and party and have fun, and it feels more like a concert rather than a sort of a clinic, if you will, right? And we thought, well, let's put some of our bands from our label, from Combat and EMP label group, let's put some of our bands on it, and we'll create a night out. So it's like a really is a concert. And during the bass story portion, which is my portion, I talk about some of the riffs and the songs that are basically the narrative of my life. Some of them, of course, are Megadeth. Some of them are some other things that I've done. And so it really becomes like this storyteller night out. And I found that fans really, really appreciate it, because of it's an up close personal moment that you don't get when you go to a festival or a big arena rock show with, you know, some of my other settings, obviously Megadeth. So it's a way to really bring the audience in close. You know, it's kind of like, okay, let's sit down and tell some stories. and I do it with bass in hand. So it's you know, the bass is my companion all through the storyteller, hence the name Bass Story.
So we'll hear the Peace Sells story. I want to know where that riff came from, because that's such an awesome bass riff. The intro to Peace Sells.
I will tell you that story at Bass Story.
Oh, all right, that's awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah, and it's funny. That's usually one that I probably would get lynched if I didn't play. So I kind of have to bring that one up and play. You know, but it's cool. There's a lot of great stories like that, and it's funny. Some nights you can hear a pin drop, you know, and people are just they're just like listening intently. And other nights, like, people are getting kind of drunk and getting rowdy, and it's like, all right, well, look, we'll rock this one a little harder, and you know, the stories will be of a little different nature. So it's kind of nice that I can sort of play to the room each night with Bass Story. Then everyone is a unique experience.
You know, Dave, we're going to bring the story up that broke yesterday about Dave and fighting the cancer. Is everything, you know, I know you guys were working on the Mega Cruise. That's coming up in October. You guys were recording a new album. Has everything been put aside, or is that all some of that stuff still going on?
The cruise is still going to go, because the cruise, quite honestly, is bigger than just a Megadeth performance, because there's so many other groups on it. And we felt certainly for a lot of people, it's a destination